we're doing here is doing an installation video of a Marigold water filter system in a typical kitchen sink. Marigold is a brand new water filter system that the big difference here is that it's self-cleaning. It's a self-cleaning system. Every other system on the market today, the dirt comes in, the contaminated water sits in there, and it never leaves until you throw the filter element away. With this, every time, the way you hook it up and the way this thing is designed, every time you turn on your kitchen cold water faucet, it flushes through the outside of the filter system and gets the dirty water out, gets any contaminants out, and so you don't need 3 of these in a row. You know, a lot of people will be selling you up to 3 multiple systems because they've got to catch all this dirt and hold all this dirt for such a long period of time. With Marigold, it's cleaned out, it's flushed out, and you don't have to make room for all this dirt that you're holding and keeping in your water stream. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at what comes in the box. So we'll open the box up. The main filter unit is right here. That comes with a 5 micron taste and odor filter. This it's in a wrapping, so we got to get the wrapping off. Don't leave the wrapping on. That would be a problem. So that comes. There's the instruction book that you should be following. In the first package, and what Marigold comes with is everything you need for a standard sink installation. You don't have to go out and buy adapters and pieces unless you've got some special parts. There may be some faucets where you're going to have to use a special adapter, but for a standard American kitchen water filter system, most of the filters, most of the systems will fit with the parts that I'm giving you. The other good thing about this is it's high quality parts. You know, these are real plumbing pieces. These are stainless steel braided tubing, and it's not that spaghetti poly white stuff that is going to leak. Eventually, is going to leak. This is a high quality, real plumbing components. This is the mounting bracket. You have the adapters that are sized for each of the different tubes here, and I've got these adapters. They're all different sizes so that you can't mess it up. You know, you put this on, it'll go onto the adapter that is needed. It also comes with the faucet, the spigot for this application, and as you can tell, it's a high quality, heavy duty part. It's not a cheap plastic piece with the little spring levers. It's a high quality plumbing piece. So the first thing we'll do is attach the actually, the first thing we'll do is we'll take the filter element out and get the plastic off so that we don't forget that, because you obviously can't leave that on or you're going to have no water coming through. So this is a standard 10-inch filter. It's a 5 micron taste and odor filter to get the best tasting water that you could possibly get. If you want additional features, if you want lead reduction, if you want fluoride reduction, you can buy one of these online at Amazon or at another site for just a few bucks. That'll do that for you, and you can put it into this system and get the benefits of the self-cleaning system and whatever kind of metal reduction or material that you want. But in almost every place in the United States, you really don't need anything more and don't want anything more than a taste and odor filter that's going to make your water taste good, because we've got the best quality water around. So what we'll do is we've got that put in there. Attach this, and then, like I said, these adapters each are sized for a different port. So you got that one port fits in here. This port fits in here, and then this one is in there. So first thing you want to do is get some thread tape put on there. Actually we'll start with the big one so you can see that. When you attach these two, the threads are the same on the 1/2 inch. On the large one, they're different on here, but again, you can't mess them up because they only go in one way. So you don't need a whole lot. You want to be able to start your threads. You have to be very careful not to cross thread anything here. But so you got to start it nice and clean in the existing threads. And it's very easy to do. You just have to be careful. Go ahead and snug these down and have them facing upright. And you don't want to go too tight, but you want to be tight enough that it's going to seal. You can always, if anything were to leak, if you didn't get this on properly, you can take these out, put all new tape on, and put it back in again. Now the second largest size, again, it only fits one way. It can only fit in this way. You can't put it in really any other way. And it's always the coarse pipe thread that you're going to put into the housing here. And again, you can use just a adjustable wrench like this one, or you can use an open end wrench and then end straight up. Now the small one, it's the smallest thread. It's 1/4 inch threads. If you want to, you can just check to make sure that you've got the right fitting in the right thing just by putting it in there. Again, there's really almost no way to get it wrong, but you can test it ahead of time to make sure that you've got it. All right, so now those are installed. They all have their Teflon tape on. This unit is ready. It still needs to be snugged down a little bit, but I'll snug it down once I get into the unit. That's what the filter wrench is for. It's for just giving it the tightening there. Now again, each of these will only fit in the right way. So this one will fit onto the 1/4 inch. This will fit onto the 3/8. This will fit onto the 1/2. And you can't really get them wrong. You can't put the 1/2 inch onto the smaller one. Again, always be reading your manual as you're doing this. So now this is ready to go. All we need to do, I think what we'll do next is we'll install the faucet onto the sink. Now there's multiple ways that you could do this. If you've got an extra hole on the sink, you can use that hole. If there's like a soap dispenser in here that you're not really using, and you've got a faucet, a spray faucet that you don't need or don't find that you're not using, you can do that, or you can drill a hole specifically for it. If you're putting it into an existing hole, you can tell there's only so much. There's only a given amount of size here. This piece with the little rubber sleeve goes right over here. And so if the hole is bigger than this diameter that you're trying to put it in, an existing hole, you might need you could buy an adapter up at Home Depot, and then instead of using the adapter that's here, you can put this larger adapter on and it'll cover a larger hole. These are 2 for $4 or something at the big box store. So what we're going to do is drill the hole for this, and we've determined that we want to put it on this side of the sink. And so what we'll do is measure the location, make a mark, and then we'll drill the hole. And in a stainless steel sink like this, it's very easy to drill the hole. but the first thing you want to do is you want to check to make sure there's nothing on the other side, because there might be other fittings, there might be something else on the other side, so you need to make sure that you've got a clear space. We've marked a little spot where we want to put this piece, and we've checked underneath to make sure that there's nothing underneath there. It's not, there aren't any wires, there aren't anything else that we need to be careful of, any other plumbing. So made a little mark, and then you use a punch of some sort to just get a little start so that the drill bit doesn't move around. We'll test it, see if it's a large enough. Looks good. So clean up the edges, just make sure everything's not gonna cut your fingers. Alright, so this faucet will go on just like this. There's a little rubber sleeve in here that helps seal this against the surface. And then down below, attach the nut and the washers. I got an extra nut there. The nut and the washers down below to hold this in place. There's also a rubber washer that goes in right below the metal. So when you put this on, then this will go on, then this will go on. This is kind of an optional piece, it's really not doing that much, and then you put this on, that's the last. And like I explained before, if you're putting in an existing hole and you need a larger size flange, you can buy a larger size flange very inexpensively up at Home Depot. So I've installed the nut and the washers and the rubber washer, and now I'm just going to snug it down a little bit. This doesn't need to be super tight. It doesn't seal anything. It just, you don't want it rotating. It just needs to be tight enough that it's not going to move around on you, and you can rotate it without doing anything, knocking it crooked or anything. So now the next thing we'll do is connect our tubes here. These don't need Teflon tape on them because there's a rubber seal in there. Any of these that have a rubber seal, the water never gets to the threads anyway, so it doesn't really need any tape on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snug them down by hand. I'm not going to put them on any tighter than that. Here's the medium-sized one that goes on the 3/8. Again, be careful not to cross-thread anything, but it's really not that challenging to keep it straight. And these are marked. You can tell this is the input. It's marked in. This goes up to the sink, goes up to the right back behind here, and then this one is marked drink, so this goes up to the drinking faucet. Again, I'm not going to tighten these down until I get everything installed underneath, and then it should be good. Because this gives us a chance to move around a little bit and adjust things. So you have to turn off the cold water. So we're going to go under the sink now. You have to turn off the cold water. We've actually turned the cold water off here. Hot water is still on, but to be safe, you could turn the hot water off as well. But the cold water is the only one you're gonna be getting into. So turn that off underneath. Test it to make sure it's turned off, so you don't have water going everywhere. And then let's go down and take a look at where we're going to put it down here. So this is the cold water. It's been turned off here, and we just need to get this taken off. This is the existing system. The existing tubing that's in there. Need to remove that. You're not going to reuse that because I've included what you need there. This is what a typical sink will be: a 1/2 inch connection up here and a 3/8 on the inlet. That's what this is sized for. If it turns out you have something different, if you might have a tube that's coming down and it's got a different size thread on it, you might need a different adapter. But those are $3 or $4 at the hardware store. You see how there's three pieces here? The mounting bracket goes on like this, so that you can mount it to the wall. There's 4 screws that are provided, and they go into these 4 holes. It's probably better to use a hand screwdriver so that you don't over torque anything. All right, so I've got this plate on. I've decided not to put these pieces onto here yet. I'm going to attach them underneath and then attach them to this last. So this is the small tube, and that goes to the filter. So I'm going to get that underneath there. I just attached the 1/2 inch tube that goes to the cold water in the faucet, and so now I'm going to put this on there. So this one's attached to the faucet, this one's attached to the cold water faucet, and the last one attaches to the inlet that you took off. And again, in a standard system, you've got a 3/8 inch thread, and we'll get that attached. When you're attaching the hoses with the rubber piece in there, you want them to tighten up so that they're not going to leak, but you don't want to go crazy on it and end up with cutting the rubber seal and making it so that the seal doesn't work. And you can always tighten it down a little bit further if it's leaking. So it looks like this is where it wants to be. What you always want to do is you want to make sure there's at least a couple inches at the bottom so that you can remove the filter bottom here. If you don't leave enough room, you can't pull that down far enough to disengage the threads. So never mount it flat against the bottom of the sink bottom. All right, so you can see that I've attached the connection to here, the in, that comes from the valve, comes in here to the port marked in, and that's the middle-sized thread, the 3/8 thread. The 1/4 inch thread, the smallest thread, is attached to this, and I haven't tightened these down yet. I'm going to snug them down in a second. That's attached to the bottom of the filter faucet, and then the largest one, the 1/2 inch, that goes right up to the kitchen sink faucet. So it's just the standard kitchen sink. So now I'm going to snug this down. Hard angle. And again, don't tighten the rubber connections too tight. You don't need thread tape on here. If you want to put it on there just for good measure, it's not going to hurt. There's a lot of it in the kit. But be careful you don't tighten this too much, because you just want it to start feeling a little snug. You can always tighten it more. So don't, you know, if I turn this on and there's a couple drips, I can always, you know, just tighten it down a little bit more. You don't, even then you don't want to do it too much if there's something wrong. But, okay, so now the filter connection is tight. Now the 1/2 inch. This one's hard to reach until you get to the right place. So the 1/2 inch, tighten down the same as you did the other ones. So now this is all completely connected. I need to tighten this, and again, this doesn't need to be all that tight either. I'm going to take it off just to show you. For when you're replacing the filter, when you take this off, it's going to be full of water. So, you know, be careful when you're changing your filter element. But it doesn't need to be too tight. There's a rubber washer in there. So you tighten that down and it's ready to go. Now we'll turn the cold water back on. And you want to run this a little bit just to get the air out of the tube. And you want to run this a little bit as well. And if there's any black particles coming out of here, that's okay. That's part of the carbon block. The carbon block is a solid piece of carbon, but there's some thin, some small pieces, some particles of carbon that might be in there. And so if it comes out black for a little bit, that's okay. Which you probably want to run this for a minute, maybe 2 minutes, just to get everything cleared out and cleaned up, and then you got to clean up the rest of the mess. All right, so we've got the final unit is finally installed. Everything's tightened up. You can check all the connections. I've tightened each one of these, and I've turned the water on, and you can feel there's no water, no drips. There can't be any water or any drips, or you're going to have problems. So, you know, you can feel that this sealed up, that sealed up, that sealed up, and the 3 connections up here. You can tell there's no water, no moisture whatsoever on the cold to this kitchen, and there's no water at all on the filter faucet. Nothing's coming down. And what you want to do is just come back and check this for the next couple days, so that you know that, you know, something has, you know, you didn't get something tight, or there's some kind of a problem. So come back and check it, and just make sure you don't have any water, because you don't want to get any water dripping underneath here. So again, just to show where the connections are, you've got the this is right where the cold water came in. Before, this went right up to the kitchen sink. Now it goes into the in port on the Marigold, and then comes out from the sink connection, and that goes up to the kitchen sink. And then the filter comes out of the filter and goes up to the filtered spigot that we installed. So you can always tell the small one is the filter with the tiny thread, and the medium-sized one comes from the inlet, and then the 1/2 inch, the larger one, comes back up here. So the way this works is the water comes in here, goes through the housing, and goes out the kitchen sink, and that flushes stale water out of here, flushes contaminants out of there before they have a chance to build up. You know, that's the trick. You know, it's not like it's waiting for the contaminants to build up. It's constantly flushing them. Every time you turn on your kitchen sink, it's flushing that out. So it never has a chance to get extra dirt in here, and there's no extra dirt coming out of the faucet because it's just happening continuously. And so you always have fresh water. And the result is fresher, cleaner drinking water. And that's what it's all about. That's what you're putting any filter system in for, is to get the freshest, cleanest water you can get. And you can only get that with a Marigold, because every other system just keeps packing dirt into the filters. The dirt never goes out until you throw away the filter element. And with a Marigold, you're constantly cleaning it. You always have clean water in there. You don't have bacteria growing inside the, on the edge of the block, because that can actually seal off the carbon block and cause premature failure in a standard system. With this, it's constantly flushing it. Every time you turn on the kitchen sink, every time you turn this on, it's now flushing through the filter. The filter, the outside of the filter, it's not using any of the filter capacity because this isn't filtered water, but it's just flushing around the outside of that filter element, getting rid of stale water, and so that every time you turn the filtered water on, you instantly get clean, fresh water. That's it. It's installed. Pretty simple. It's just a couple connections, and I provide almost every piece that you need for a standard system. And if you have just a custom size of something, you might need a $3 or $4 adapter, and those are readily available at any hardware store. Thanks for watching. Go put a Marigold under your sink.